A very good morning to all of you who are here via virtual meeting and those kind of things. I hope everything is well and fine with all of you. I know that some of you are actually doing staggered 30% approach in your factories or your companies as well. So we hope that everything is fine with you guys as well, and hopefully that eventually following this discussion here, hopefully you guys got some questions to ask, and if you do, please do ask the experts that we have today, and then we can proceed further as well. All right, so let me first introduce myself. So my name is Kenneth. All right, sorry, before we go to my introduction, so what will happen is just some ground rules today. So in the meantime, please do mute yourself if you have any questions. I think the speakers are okay if you just interrupt them for a short while, but please do advise us in beginning. And if you want to ask a question, please do switch on the video, mute yourself, of course, introduce, and then of course ask. All right. Next is the agenda. So what will happen is we have a few. It's a quick welcome remark, and after that we'll shoot off to Dr. Chua, who's going to speak as well, and then eventually after Dr. Chua ends, then we'll proceed with James, and then there's a quick Q&A, and after that we can proceed further as well. All right, for a quick advertisement on what the upcoming programs are with the Selangor Human Resource Development Center. So let me present myself first. Let me introduce myself. So my name is Kenneth for MSF Worldwide. So we are the sales partners with SHRDC, the Selangor Human Resource Development Center. So we've started our partnership since I think late last year. So this I think is the third or fourth installment of this series of events that we have together with the Selangor Human Resource Development Center, or SHRDC in short. Now, and that's who we are. But our main business is actually we are marketing guys through and through. We do a lot of exhibitions as well, definitely. But as you know, exhibitions are now very quiet, and if you don't mind virtual exhibitions, then that's your cup of tea then. All right. Now, moving forward, let me first introduce Dr. Chua. All right. So Dr. Chua. So give me a minute. So Dr. Chua is actually currently the head of Malaysian Smart Factory 4.0 under the Selangor Human Resource Development Center. He obtained his PhD in Control Systems Engineering and Bachelor's in Engineering in Mechatronics Engineering from the Monash University, Malaysia. His key area of expertise lies mainly in the area of control and automation systems, fault detection and identification, and predictive maintenance strategies, which are widely used in Industry 4.0 applications. He is also appointed by the Malaysia Productivity Corporation (MPC) in collaboration with the Machinery and Equipment Productivity Nexus as one of the mentors for the Productivity 1010 initiative to support the industries in their journey towards digital transformation. As the head of Malaysian Smart Factory 4.0, Dr. Chua and his team are focused in delivering high-impact talent development towards programs to accelerate the growth of local talents who would be the workforce in supporting the growth of Industry 4.0. The programs developed by his team at the Malaysian Smart Factory are also able to support the industries and community towards achieving sustainable digital transformation through high-impact talent development strategies. So without further ado, I forgot one person actually. Do I have to stop? Okay. Sorry, so Lee, do you want to say something first before we begin with Dr. Chua? My apologies.
It's okay, I think you just go ahead. This session is actually for Dr. Chua and James to share their technical experience. I'm actually in charge of SHRDC, and I would like to thank all of you for your time today, for us to share some opportunity for us to share what we can offer to industry, and what are some of the activities that currently we are doing in SHRDC that probably is helpful for you in improving your productivity and of course improving your talent pool or your skills, your workforce capability. So James, being our loyal customer and also our greatest supporter so far. He actually has proven that the technology is, whatever people say about Industry 4.0 is actually something that is working, and it's not just buzzword, or it's not just concept that is being promoted by the government. So we want to hear from him, like how did this training and also the technology help him help the organization in productivity improvement. So back to you, Kenneth. That's all from me. Very quick one.
Thank you, Sudong. So Dr. Chua, over to you. I think the floor is yours. Well, the screen is yours, not the floor though.
No problem. Thank you very much, Kenneth, and welcome everybody this morning to the session. Let me just share my screen at the moment. Okay. All right. Kenneth, do you see my screen?
Yes, I do.
Okay, my slide is up, right?
Yeah.
It's changing, right?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So thank you very much to everyone present here this morning. Very much welcome to this webinar session. And thank you very much to James as well for joining us today to share his experience with regards to his journey towards digital transformation. So this morning, what I will share with everyone here today would be the operational technologies for a smart factory, and generally how we can actually progress further into this space, Industry 4.0 in a very sustainable manner, right? And what are the key concepts of a smart factory that will help many industries to enable them to actually achieve a more sustainable and cost-effective approach towards digital transformation. And this will be what we will share this morning. And we hope to give you a very different perspective into how you can actually integrate these kind of operational technologies very, very quickly in your current manufacturing operations. So these are the areas that we'll cover today. I'll just give a very quick overview on Industry 4.0 and Smart Factory. What is it all about? Then we talk a bit deeper into the operational technologies for Smart Factory. And then we will end the session with a more perspective on a cost-effective and sustainable approach towards achieving these kind of integrations for your current manufacturing operations. So as all of us know that, Industry 4.0 is one of the key buzzwords recently, right? And generally, the key concept or strength of Industry 4.0 is no longer about automation, but it's more about how data is, being the new goal to support people in making the right decisions and hence improving their productivity and efficiency in overall. So generally, Industry 4.0, as we look at it, it's not just a direct plug and play kind of solution, but rather it is a journey towards a digital transformation and productivity. As you see the progress from 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? And one key concept about Industry 4.0 is that it doesn't necessarily need to go through a pathway of, you need to go to 2.0, 3.0, then only 4. It can actually skip a step, right? And what matters most is actually about the connectivity of devices and what the data can do for you that will give you a greater value, value creation for your company to make the right decisions and eventually achieve better productivity. So now we talk about the smart factory concept, right? We always hear these 9 pillars or 11 pillars of Industry 4.0. But here in the smart factory here, we talk really about the integration of technologies, because for us, the key importance is actually technology integration, right? How the technology pillars can be integrated to work better for the company, and what kind of technologies will actually create better value for the companies in general to achieve what they want to achieve in terms of productivity. So we talk about the horizontal integration, where we talk about the shop floor integration. You talk about machine to machine communication. You talk about production line to production line communication, and hence this kind of connectivity will provide you with sufficient information to actually visualize what your production is currently running on a daily basis, right? Then we talk about vertical integration, when all the data is then moved from the shop floor all the way to the cloud, or even to a local cloud, right? You have a public and you have a private cloud, right? And then you talk about AI and analytics eventually to support you in terms of making the right decisions. And then you talk about the digital twin, which is basically a digital replica of your current manufacturing process or production process, which will help you to simulate what will actually happen in due time, right? Based on your current production trend. So today we'll cover more on what we talk about operational technologies, which is one of the three key components of a smart factory. You have operational technologies, you have information system technology, and then you have the digital factory. So we go to the OT side first, as the OT portion will be the key importance for many manufacturing industries to start first, and then only you scale up eventually from there. So the key strength about operational technologies and Industry 4.0 is actually about data, right? Well, some people may ask, what can data do for me? I actually receive data from my my supervisors. Every day they update me on what's the current production status. Every day they update me if how many downtime I have, what's the machine issues. But the key strength of it is getting data at the right time, right? So basically, if you look at this chart, right, you talk about the time versus the value of adaptation, right? So assuming that you look at this chart and you think about your machine, right? If your machine breaks down, do you want to know your machine breaks down immediately, or do you want to know half an hour later that your machine has already broken down, right? So basically, if you know it as fast as possible, you can actually make the right analysis as fast as possible, do the right decisions, and then take action, right? So eventually, if all these time delays can be minimized, right, eventually you minimize the entire cost of solving a problem, right? Everything is time dependent, right? And I think in manufacturing industries, generally, right, time is money for you, right? Every minute is every dollar that is being created from there, correct? So this is how we can actually use data to actually optimize your cost of manufacturing. So now, what are the kind of operational technologies then that we can talk about in terms of the smart factory? So if you think about the entire automation pyramid, I'm sure that you probably have seen this before. You start at the field level, which is basically your sensors, right? Then you talk about the control level, which is basically your programmable logic controllers and so on. Then you talk about the supervisory level, which is basically your monitoring your system. Then you talk about MES, which is your manufacturing execution systems, and then your ERP, which is your enterprise resource planning systems, right? Now, we look at it as a pyramid, right? Now, the key question is, how are you going to integrate from the bottom level, the base, all the way to the ERP, right? This is actually a key importance for everyone to understand, because most of the time, what I understood from many industries is they start from the top and then they have difficulty to actually connect to the bottom, right? So that is one of the challenges that I see. And most of the time, people start off at the top first. But rather, we should actually look at it from the base level, what you want to achieve, and then slowly move up to the top. And how that interconnection then works is actually through, what are the flexible and modular approach to connect everything together. So we talk about, how the smart factory ecosystem should be modular, right? And flexible enough for industries to actually integrate, right? You talk about Lego, right? You start from Lego pieces and then you connect them, and then slowly you build them into what we call as a masterpiece. The same thing that it can happen for many, many industries as well. You start with pieces, connect them together, and once you connect all the way to the top, you build your pyramid, and then eventually you have a masterpiece of a smart factory on your own. So the key concept here is modularity as a key factor for sustainable factory concept and setup, right? You want things to be modular, you want things to be connected, and then eventually they can scale up on their own, right? So this is basically how we see technologies can be integrated together. So when we look at the entire smart factory concept, it shouldn't be just, basically it shouldn't be, complicated or complex, right? We need to see it from a step-by-step approach, right? And this is one of the articles that I recently produced together with my collaborators at Monash. Basically, we talk about the step-by-step approach in maturing towards Industry 4.0. So you talk first about data acquisition, then you talk about data processing, and then only you make decisions and take action, right? So this is basically how we see the operational technologies coming into place to help industries move in a step-by-step approach, right? So we talk about the flexible and scalable integration towards a smart factory, right? And this basically, we talk about different machine have different brands, right? And how they are all interconnected together, right? To create a smart factory kind of ecosystem, right? So basically they can connect to each other, right? Regardless of a different brand that you have, right? And eventually what happens is that, you can actually see your dashboard, you can actually have your data storage, you can actually store your data and then give you valuable information. So we talk about a simple illustration of productivity and machine effectiveness, right? Where you talk about, OEE, right? Overall equipment effectiveness. So you talk about the planning, you have a plan, 8 hours, you want to achieve 100%, which is 8,000 pieces per shift, right? Then you talk about availability, right? So that is, how long your production hours are actually, productive. Let's say you only are productive 6 hours out of 8 hours in a day, that is 75% of your total productivity. Then you talk about performance, right? Let's say your machine is targeted to produce 1,000 pieces an hour, but actually you only produce 700 pieces, right? So that talks about your performance. And then you talk about quality, right? Out of 8,000 pieces, or 6,000 pieces that you are able to produce per shift, how many of it is actually defective, right? So although, at every level of A, P, and Q, which is availability, performance, and quality, you achieve 70% and above, right? Overall OEE, you only achieve actually 50% because it is a factor of your availability, performance, and quality. So these metrics actually provides you with the overall idea of how your machines are effective and how they are, how they can scale up from there. So then we talk about the illustration of the 6 big losses in manufacturing, right? We talk about the 6 big losses, which are breakdowns, setup adjustments, idling or minor stoppages, speed, defects in process and rework. Then you talk about the startup losses and so on. So all these things basically produce what we call as your 6 big losses. And all this identification of your 6 big losses can be achieved from understanding your current manufacturing operations, right? And this can be achieved through getting your data, and then you can actually see where are all these losses at actually. And then from there, you can see, from the losses that you have, you can identify what are your unplanned stops, your small stops, your production rejects, and all this can actually be achieved in real time so that you can get the right mitigation steps in place before something bad actually happens. So now, then we think about the overall OEE. How straightforward can it be to actually be able to collect that kind of information from machines? So most of you would probably have machines with tower lights, with emergency stop, start-stop button. You have sensors that will identify your part in and part out, right? But maybe these machines are at the moment not connected, right? So then we talk about how do we then collect the data to actually visualize this kind of information. So we talk about, availability, performance, and quality, right? So from a machine, how do you identify how to get availability data? So a simple approach would be tower lights, emergency stop, or start or stop button. You can actually tap signals in a machine to give you that information of your downtime. For example, if you have a red light in your machine, basically your machine is down, right? So then you can calculate your downtime. And once you calculate your downtime, you can calculate your overall availability, right? So then you talk about your performance, which means your part in to part out, which is your cycle time, right? Your process cycle time. So you just have to tap signals from input to output, right? How many cycles your machine have run, and what's the time difference between cycles. That is your overall performance. Then you talk about quality. Quality can then be identified through different indicative sensors, right? Or push buttons or switchboards that you can identify, okay, there's a machine failure, there's a product failure or quality issue due to what kind of reasons, right? And all these can actually be captured in real time to provide you the information that you need. And it doesn't matter whether your machine is IoT capable at the moment, because this kind of information can actually be tapped, right? You can actually tap machines regardless of the brand, as long as they have an electrical circuit and you know what kind of signals it produce, give you the right information, and then translate it into visualization dashboards like this, right? So these kind of dashboard systems are there to provide you with the visualization that you need to actually get started, right? So for example, in this kind of dashboard, what I can see from here is if my availability starts to drop to 50% in the first 2 hours of my production, then I know that something is actually very, very wrong, right? is either operator dependent, or is it machine dependent, or is it the startup time, is taking too long, then we are able to identify, right? Then we can take action almost immediately because this is real-time data. Then we talk about performance. Let's say my performance has dropped to 50%, right? Halfway through my production shift. So then I can understand that, okay, my production is having this issue because maybe my conveyor belt has a problem, or maybe my system has a problem, my hydraulic press has a problem, maybe, right? All these things we need to identify through data collection. Then we talk about quality, right? Let's say, for example, operator A, in his shift, his quality is 90%. Operator B, his shift, the quality dropped to 50%, right? So this kind of quality issues can be, operator dependent, right? Or let's say, for example, today you use a raw material from company A, right? And you actually achieve 90% of quality. Tomorrow you use a raw material from company B. Suddenly your quality dropped to 50%. Now that is basically quality dependent on raw materials, right? So these kind of identification steps, can be realized if you actually improve, your data collection steps and automate your whole data automation strategy. Then from collecting a lot of data, from looking at all the kind of data collection steps, you can actually then start to move from, reactive maintenance all the way to predictive maintenance. So being able to forecast when the machine will break down, to identify what are the key factor or steps that you need to take, right? It is as simple as looking at a car, right? You're driving a car every day. Your car will have a mileage counter, right? And you know that every 10,000 kilometers, you need to change your oil, right? That is basically what we call as preventive maintenance, which is a scheduled maintenance, right? Every 10,000 you will change, or every 6 months you will change, right? But do you necessarily need to change your oil every 6 months or every 10,000 kilometers, right? It is heavily dependent on the way that you drive, right? Sometimes you may be stuck in a traffic jam almost every day, and your car is exhausted further, right? Or some people, they travel long distance, so they may not necessarily need to change their oil so fast. So then that looks into predictive maintenance, right? Then only we move on to prescriptive eventually. Now, the whole idea of data is basically helping you to make the decisions early before it actually reaches a functional failure, right? And by having operational technologies in place, you can actually monitor your machine health, over time, right? So that you actually prevent it from further, from only mitigating the steps at functional failure step, but you're actually able to solve, preventively at the early stage, right? Through the predictive maintenance kind of strategy. And these are data-driven strategies to help you make decisions faster, right? And if, let's say, by data, right, you can actually understand the machine better and understand the root cause, you make decisions faster, right? Therefore, you up your machine at a faster rate. So this is an example of how, data can be collected, it can be forecasted, and all these are in real time, right? We talk about real time and data collection now because we want to ensure that we can actually, extract that information fast enough to make decisions. So if I can make a decision within the next 5 minutes, as opposed to the next 1 hour, that will actually give me a lot of time savings, right? And eventually help me to be more productive. So then, when you have a lot of data, you can also identify what, is happening in your machine. We talk about anomaly detection, right? So sometimes when your conveyor is actually having a problem, eventually, you can actually predict this faster. Or let's say if you have a certain oil leak, right, in your oil tank or something like that, right, for your hydraulic press machine, you are able to actually understand, what is the level of the oil, when to actually change or top up your oil. So these are what we call as anomaly detection. So the whole key idea about operational technologies is how do you integrate these technologies to give you the data that you need, right? And it's not just any data, it's about the volume of data, how big you want your data to be, velocity, which is your frequency. It cannot be every 1 to 2 days you collect data. It needs to be a certain time scale, right? Depending on your system. They talk about variety, right? You don't just collect one signal, you collect many. And then veracity, which is your accuracy of data. Now, accuracy of data is very important because sometimes people say, oh, I have a supervisor that every morning he will collect data from 40 over machines, right? What is the data accuracy of that data collection? Does anyone know, right? if let's say there is some tampering or non-transparency in the data collected, right, we will never know, right? So therefore, automating data collection will create value and hence creating useful data for the management to observe. And hence, by doing all this, you actually reduce your total losses, right? You can move from, your current OEE status to world-class OEE status and maybe even perfect eventually, right? So the whole idea is basically to reduce your overall cost of losses, right? And hence improve your productivity. So these are some of the key advantages of going into operational technologies for your digital transformation, right? You talk about real-time productivity insights, talk about improving machine utilization, more efficient operations, and then optimizing your workforce for improvement. But you don't need one supervisor to go one round to actually collect all the information, right, every morning. So you can actually automate the data and you can visualize it from your home, right? Right now, if it's a MCO or CMCO, again, we can visualize it from our home. Your management can actually see the data from anywhere they are. That is the kind of level of transparency that we want to achieve eventually to help many industries move forward too. So the whole idea about understanding, the value creation of digital transformation actually helps to then move many industries to the right direction, and how they can actually move this in a more sustainable approach and more cost-effective approach is looking at building, your transformation roadmap with a more people-focused strategy. Right, so this is an example of a roadmap that we always present to industries, right? Every digital transformation roadmap starts with the leadership buy-in and commitment first, right? Then looking at allocation of funding, which looks into talent and building lighthouses in the company. So you don't need to actually do an entire company approach of Industry 4.0. You can start with small projects, right? Get the team involved, get the people involved, build them up to become what we call as ambassadors of the company, right? You would not want to implement technologies and then it become white elephant in the company, right? Where you cannot, where nobody uses, right? You want them to cultivate the culture of, yes, technology is going to help me to get this information and to make me more productive, right? So that's talking about ambassadors. Then you build domain expertise, which is you have your internal team to support you. And having internal team actually helps to improve your overall utilization because you already have an internal team standby to support your entire production system. Then you talk about continuous improvement. And I think most industry will always talk about Kaizen, right? Which you talk about continuous improvement to scale up your operations. So it's not a direct plug and play kind of technology, because eventually the idea is you can continuously improve this to scale up. So how the smart factory ecosystem helps companies to do this? We talk about the multi-vendor approach, meaning to say brand neutral. Any devices should be able to talk to each other in an open communication protocol, regardless of your brand, right? Then we talk about open collaboration concept, which means we talk about open platforms that are already available to help industries to integrate, right? Every integration development of software hardware integration is currently available for people to explore, and they can integrate on their own. This is actually a possibility, right? Rapid prototyping and development. Basically, if you don't need like 6 months to develop something, to develop a kind of integration, it can be brought down to maybe a month that you can actually learn how to do it, and you can actually prototype and build one set for your company. The whole idea is reducing your time to deploy. So it's always reduction of time. Because eventually how we see is technology should be modular, compatible, flexible, and scalable, right? So this is basically helping many industries to reduce the complexity and reduce your entire cost of integration. So that's how we see that kind of technology to be integrated. So we break it down even further to 5 levels of maturity for industries, right? We talk about level 1 to level 5. Because many industries always, when we talk to them, when we do factory visits, when we explore and scope their current manufacturing operations, we actually ask them, okay, what is your final goal, right? Most of them will say that, okay, I want AI and analytics in my company, but generally the first question to ask is, where's your data collected, right? So then we bring them back to level 1, collection of data. First, visualize your data, then store your data, and then formulate, and then do analytics. Without data and without historian data trends, there is really not much analytics that you can do, right? It's actually very, very complex, because how machines learn, or how analytics learn, is through data. Basically, we learn through experience, they learn through data. So these are basically how analytics strategies are being put in place. So whatever dashboard that I showed you just now, right? You can actually scale up further, right? You can actually build your own cost-effective and sustainable platforms like this, monitoring not a single machine but multiple machines. It is up to you, right? Basically the whole idea of integration is how do we connect them together in a more cost-effective and flexible manner, right? So you can actually monitor your entire operations, and once you are actually ready, you can scale up. You can look at different kind of parameters. You want to look at power, you want to look at temperature, humidity, is your choice, right? Eventually, what we provide to support industries is the competencies required to develop these kind of technologies. And then you can learn, you can actually build it on your own, and you can scale up. So this is how we show a simple topology from level 1 to level 5, right? You don't necessarily need to go cloud, right? Cloud is basically, of course, a good feature for those who do not have their internal server, right? But if you have your own private server, you have your own private cloud, then start from your private cloud integration. You start from level 1, which is data collection. And if you notice here that we have two types of methods of collection of data. One is we call it IoT gateway. Second is we call it data generation. Why data generation is more popular? Because many machines now, they don't have access to their PLC codes. They don't have access to the access to modify anything in their current controllers. Therefore, data generation is a program where you can tap signals from machine and get the information that you want through a non-PLC based method, right? Then you talk about, after you collect data, you talk about visualizing and storing, right? So that's level 2 and level 3. Then you talk about building your own OEE, that's level 4. Then only you move up to analytics. So all these are actually capable to be taught, and we can actually teach you exactly how to do this kind of integration through our programs that you can see here. So we have all the way from level 0.5, which is actually, this OT topic is actually part of the level 0.5, which is scaled down for this webinar, right? But we go deeper into the technical overview, in this program. Then we talk about level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5 in different programs that we have. So all these are actually available for any participants who wants to start their transformation journey. We can actually help you from here. So why the concept of a smart factory that we introduced to industry is sustainable and cost effective? Because it helps to create maximum value creation through what we call as a digital transformation ownership. Basically, you own the technology. Sustainable technology integration. Basically, you can scale up at any time because the platforms are open and scalable. Lower upfront investment, hence reducing your cost, and improve your overall ROI. And one of the key concepts of learning and doing it on your own is basically the readiness for it to replicate. So you start from one machine, eventually you can scale up to multiple machines. So this is actually one of the kickstart success story that we have from training to implementation that we actually did with a number of industries. And we have James here, who is actually one of our key success story as well, where he will share more deeply what he has done later. For us, what we share with you today is the framework, right? So the idea is, you have a technical team, then you go through a talent development program, you identify a project, start from one project, once you finish, then you scale up, right? So we always start from what we call as lighthouses, right? So then eventually you can slowly scale up from there, and then you can integrate the technologies once you understand fully how it is done, right? It's all about then replication after that. So why we go with this method? Because we think about the people-focused strategy. Because eventually, at the end of the day, the real domain experts are you, right? You are the domain experts in your industry, and what we are equipping you is the tools and the competencies to help you to scale up further. Because eventually, having technology ownership will be more sustainable for many companies, and we are all ready to support you towards that direction. So this is generally what we do in the Malaysian Smart Factory. Just to give a very brief overview. We do tech talent development as a core. We have the Smart Factory, which is actually a technology learning platform. We run a proof of concept and lighthouse projects. Basically, we understand industry problems, and we will try to develop a solution behind it, and then we will teach you how to do it. So that's generally our key concept and uniqueness of the smart factory. We have a model factory that you can now visit as well. You just have to let us know if you intend to drop by. And now we actually run programs digitally. At the comfort of your office or your home, you can actually log into our hardware, and you can actually do the integration at your office site as well. So this actually helps to enhance the training experience while ensuring the comfort and safety of our customers and participants. So if you have completed, your RA, readiness assessment, or you have completed this productivity 10-10 assessment, these are the services that we can offer to participants who intend to join our programs, or our companies who just want to understand where they are at. So we can actually look through your documentations, do an initial scoping, and then we can understand what are the technologies that you need, and then we can recommend the right programs for you. So these are the additional services that we can do for companies who are keen. And of course, if let's say you would like to understand what else that we do in terms of SHRDC, you can follow us on our links over here. We have an extensive library of YouTube webinars now that you can actually go into to learn and to understand what are the key technologies that we have done in terms of webinars, so that this becomes a resource for you to understand the technologies better. And with that, that's all I have for this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chua. So what's interesting is that there's many. It's very very informative. I hope that everybody got something out of it as well at the same time. All right. So now, without further ado, I will want to introduce James. Let me show his slide or see. Give me 1 minute. So now, let me introduce you, James. So Mr. James Chiang, he is currently the senior manager at APM Springs. He graduated with a bachelor's in engineering, and of course he has an MBA as well. He has more than 15 years of industry experience and is trained in Japan at the famous Toyota production system. He has had valuable on-the-job training with lean experts from Toyota, Daihatsu and Nissan, to name a few. And he has since been leading several companies that he is attached with to achieve lean results. He is recognized as a lean practitioner and or trainer for the SME Corporation, the Majaiko LPS program, Toyota Suppliers Club, and of course at MARI, the Malaysia Automotive Robotics and IoT Institute in Cyberjaya, of course. So now I'll just now hand over to James. Give me a minute.
Okay, thank you, Kenneth.
Okay, thank you, James. Please.
Now I show the presentation slide.
Yes, please.
Can you see my slide? Slide 1?
Yeah.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm James Chiang from APM. Thank you, organizer, to allow me to share something here. Basically, I will share two things. First is our view on Industry 4.0. And then second is our first initiative towards Industry 4.0. Okay, now we move on to slide number 2. Industry 4.0. I think Dr. Chua just now has explained very clearly what is this. Basically, I think during the Malaysia, they launched Industry Forward. I'm sure most of the people they are confused, including us, because Industry 4.0 is just too many things. Whatever you can think of also can be said is Industry 4.0. So basically here, for us, Industry 4.0, here also stated cyber physical system. I would say we believe it's more to information automation. Okay. It's not solely, but it's more to information automation. As for the previous revolution like first, second, and third electricity automations, it's more to material automation, also called the process automation. Okay, where they are focusing on to automate, to convert the manual process into automation to improve the productivity. As you can see from the picture below here, okay, bottom left, is a typical production line. So you can see the part is conveying using the conveyor, okay, without human intervention, and then the process is handled by a robot. is referring to material or so-called the process automation, where the facilities here get connected and then the information can show in the dashboard here. We call information automation or the data automation. For example, the screen here, you can see the dashboard, the gripping force of the robot example. You can see the conveyor speed, whether healthy or not, and then the productivity, perhaps the OEE of the line can be visualized from here. Okay, so this is called information automation. For us, Industry 4.0 roadmap, first we believe we should achieve information automation first, because the information, the data that we collected later on only can be justified for subsequent facility upgrading. Okay, that referring to Industry 2.0 or 3.0. Ultimately, of course, everyone now they are talking Industry 5.0, like light out manufacturing. Okay, so in order to achieve information automation, there are a few steps we believe. The first, we need to get our facility connected. Okay, then we start to collect the meaningful data, actionable data. So the data that we can use, it's not every data we want to collect, those meaningful data to us. Then we visualize it to trigger when anomaly happen. Okay, then only we can analyze subsequently and automate it. Okay. So these are the few steps that we think we should do to achieve the information automation. So one thing to highlight here is also the talent development. For us, it's very important for the talent development, because this is the only way to make sense for more sustainable environment. We need to reskill our resources. We need to upskill our resources. Okay, we need to build the talent into the plant. Okay, like I think Dr. Chua just mentioned, the people first. That's more important. Okay, so we move on to slide 3. So just now I shared the roadmap first, information automation first. Therefore, our first initiative, also called the hands-on proof of concept (POC), okay, is to get the data to get our facility connected. Okay, which referring to the title here, the data generation through neural programming and IoT methodology. Okay, thanks to SHRDC team also, because this is a project that we collaborate with them. Okay, last year, we focusing on one of our line, final line assembly. The project happened last year, May to July. Of course, subsequently we get all these things live in October. Okay, basically we learn how to use the programming, the neural and IoT methodology to collect the data for OEE, to visualize, to realize the connect, collect and visualize. Okay, at the same time we reskill our AMS Kaizen team. AMS here is meaning APM manufacturing system. We have our own system within the group, okay, towards Industry 4.0. Okay. So we look at the general structure approach here. As you can see, this is our typical line, and then we have our tower light here, okay, with different colors that represent different downtime to the line. Okay. Then we connect the line, the machine, from the sensors or relay, and go into the IoT gateway. In this case, we use a Gunpaz Revolution Pi. Okay. Of course, we also use a PLC to do the interlock with for the tower light here. So all the signal collected will be stored in the Gunpaz Revolution Pi. Okay. By the way, at this moment, we are collecting a digital signal, meaning 1 or 0, on or off. So analog signal will be our next stage. Okay, so after collecting the data to the IoT gateway, then the information will channel to the PC here by using the MQTT. Okay, then the neural programming we use to do the programming to do all the calculation. Okay, then eventually the data to be stored into the InfluxDB subsequently can be collected and visualized by using the Grafana. It's a dashboard software that we can visualize all the data that we collected. Okay. So all the calculations, the OE, availability, everything will be done by using the neural programming. Okay, visualization only by the Grafana. So this is a very simple project. Then we can realize connect, collect, and visualize. Okay. So to be exact, this is our dashboard now. Okay, as you can see, the dashboard, we have availability here. Okay, and then the performance, we can know the how fast the line is, the actual cycle time versus the target, and then the quality, OEE, and then operation rate as well. Okay, at the same time, we can visualize our current productivity output in actual versus the target, the cycle time versus the target cycle time. Okay, so the graph here can show the trend of the line, and then we also can show the trend of the productivity here. Okay, so here we can see the total downtime of the line as per now, and then we also can know every single downtime. For example, the downtime due to quality, downtime due to machine breakdown, supply, changeover, and others. Okay. Other than that, we also built in the information for our Jitoka point. For those company implement lean manufacturing, you know the JIT and Jitoka. Basically, Jitoka is the parameters that is important to make sure the machine produce a good part. Okay. So in this case, we also built in the Jitoka point here. Example, like one of our welding machine. Okay, the water supply, is it okay or not? The inverter, the pressure, the welding, and then the overlapping. Okay. If any of the point NG, then the signal email will send to the related PSC. Okay. So the next, to answer the question, can our legacy machine get connected for Industry 4.0? I think this question always be asking since day one. So we all very worried that some of machine, not all our machine is new. Okay, some machine is legacy. So can we get our machine connected or not? So as per the example just now I shared to you, basically I would say yes, possible we can get the legacy machine get connected because we gone through before. Okay. And then to be in additional to that, I think Bosch, now we at slide 6. So I think Bosch has shown very good example earlier. So they take out one machine, they so-called the antique machine. To be exact, it's a cast iron workbench. They used to wind coil for starter motor. So, and then in year 2017, they take out the machine and then they turn the machine into Industry 4.0 ready. So the machine now, they can track in real time the RPM for the motor, and they also can track real time the condition of the aging ladder drive. Okay. So once again, show that legacy machine we can easily get connected to get the data the data that we want. Okay. I think that's all from my side. Thank you. Kenneth, I pass back to you.
So thank you very much, James. Now, moving forward, so now of course this is a Q&A period as well at the same time. I'm very curious to see whether we have got any questions from the floor. If you have, please do type in your chat box. If you do not, then just signal me and do certain things, or just make a say, excuse me, Kenneth, I would like to ask some of the panel a question. But I think let me start the ball rolling first if there are no questions yet. I would like to hear, so in just to, well, not say summarize, but a quick overview of between what Dr. Chua and James had shared earlier is very much on people focus, technology first. Sorry, if you want to implement smart factory in your office, so basically in short, we should actually focus on the your people as well. So which means talent development is very, very important. It's good to hear as well that in APM that you are working on as well with that you guys are also focusing on talent development, which is good, which is actually very interesting as well, because a lot of people may not seem to think that way, but somehow, you know, people may want to actually work with other people or work with other system integrators as well. I'm very interested, very curious as well. So just now when James, when you shared something on the Grafana dashboard, all right, I understand that you work with SHRDC as well to implement this, like we call it Lighthouse project, Dr. Chua. So out of curiosity, do you involve any other system integrators in between, or was it just between the two of you, between these two organizations only?
Actually, just between APM and SHRDC only.
Okay. All right. Good,
just
good,
two.
Was there any reason why you all didn't use a system integrator, or you just decided not to use one now?
For at this moment, for this project, I think this just enough, because the skill we intend to build into the plant. So called we learn the skill from the Dr. Chua team, and subsequently we are able to do so already. Meaning, actually, in fact, this year we plan to Yokoten, so-called we copy this technology to another 3 lines by ourselves, 100%.
Okay. So everything is in-house, lah.
Everything is in-house. At the moment, it's in-house. Yeah.
All right, right. Then I think there's one line that you shared on. You use so many brands inside: Node-RED, InfluxDB, MySQL, Grafana, Data IQ, and Kineme as well. So I assume this one is all in APM's point of view, your way of going for information automation.
Yeah. Yes, that are the software that so-called potentially that we can use. But of course, we are not using all. We only first 3 steps only: connect,
Okay.
collect, and visualize. So at the moment, we're just using the few software. I think we can get what we want at the moment.
All right, interesting. So any questions from the floor? Sorry, I saw something going on now on the chat.
A very good morning.
Hi.
Allow me to speak.
Yes, please. Please go ahead. Francis, right?
Yeah, I'm Francis from Takaso Rubber. We are the baby product Japlo manufacturer and play safe condom.
Okay.
So my question is about the software. Let's say you already have an ERP or already installed in your factory. Is the new software going to integrate with this system, or we need to redo everything? This is the question for Mr. Chua or
Either one,
Sure.
either of the panel.
yes,
All right,
yeah,
sure.
all related.
Sure, Mr. Francis. Maybe I can share first. In any case, James would like to add on later. So generally, what we would need to understand first is what is the current ERP system that you're using? What is the current systems that you have in place? So that we can actually understand what are the available ports for connectivity, right? And then from there, from the available ports, or we call it the open ports for integration, we should be able to communicate from the shop floor level all the way to the ERP. So for example, like we have tested with an ERP system where how we integrate it is through API connectivity, which means that from the Node-RED platform that we use from the factory floor integration, we are actually able to connect to the ERP system through that kind of API. So usually we can also discuss with your ERP provider if you have, then we can understand what are the available ports that are there to actually connect this system all together. Yeah. So our idea is not to change every system that you have, but more of to integrate what you already have in your current factory, right? So we will look at ways to integrate rather than to ask you to change everything. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Francis. Yeah.
Cool. James, do you want to add anything, or everything is satisfactory?
Yeah, satisfied.
Satisfied. All right. So I've got 2 questions from the chat group. Let's start. I think Darren was asking about. Okay, this question to James. What do you wish someone had told you before you start your first smart factory project? Or
What
you
do
just
you
buy
wish
a hantam money?
actually, just to share, we have been explore the industry 4.0 since day one. I mean, during the Malaysia, I think our ex-PM, Tun M. So he launched industry forward for Malaysia. Then at that time, I believe we also talked to few vendor, and then we are very confused because industry 4.0 can say whatever the technology you can think of, is considered Industry 4.0. We also don't know how to go about.
True.
So a long time we attend a conference, we attend webinar, seminars. Then eventually because how to say, we also lucky because earlier we involved in intensively in lean manufacturing. Okay, and then we know exactly what we want, the direction. But now we come to the 4.0, then a long time, then we see, especially when we visited the SHRDC, the Smart Factory showcase. Then at that time, we think they have a so-called software that they can collect the data, especially the OE. Then eventually we see back the experience that we have earlier on. Then we conclude ourselves, now we should go for data generation. Otherwise, it's still manual currently, some of the process. Otherwise, the everything is not accurate. I would say not 100% not accurate. I mean, it's not fully accurate as what we expected. Because once we take the signals in real time, we can compare with the manual. Actually, there are some gap there. There is a potential improvement for us. So, if you ask me what do you wish someone had told you before you start information automation, I wish someone told me that you need to start information automation first. So that's why today I share with all you Industry 4.0. I conclude you need to do information automation first. Get the data first. Okay.
Interesting, James. Thanks.
Thanks.
Actually, very, very odd though, because a lot of people, if you follow the industry guys, they will say 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, then only 4.0. But for you guys, you started with 4.0 first lah, in some aspects.
Yeah, correct.
Interesting.
Correct.
Now, and then I think there's another question from Mark. So I think Mark is asking if the system is able to integrate with SAP system. But I think I want to expand on that rather than just saying SAP. Maybe for Dr. Chua or for James, maybe we can consider maybe not SAP, but all kinds of ERP systems out there. Is it possible to integrate all these systems within the Node-RED program, or how are you looking at?
I think Dr. Chua is a better person to answer this.
Yeah, no problem, James. With regards to SAP, yes, we have scoped out that there is what we call as a connection or plugin towards the SAP systems. So this is definitely something that the company can explore if they intend to look into integration. Because for every ERP or MES system per se, they always work on a back end which is a database, right? So they always have a back end database. So for as long as the Node-RED platform can access the back end database, your data is already collected there. So this is how we visualize that kind of integration. So this is something that definitely we believe is capable, but we of course can try it on our own or with you first to see that kind of capability. Yeah. So we are open to discuss on how we can do that.
All right, cool. Thanks, Dr. Chua. So basically, at the end of the day, I think we can communicate with all kinds of software. The question is whether the software allows us to communicate with them, right? I think.
Correct. Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Chua. I think Francis was asking as well, the cost of the software. Francis, maybe you can elaborate a bit better on what do you mean by the software first. Which software?
Good morning again. Can you hear?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes. Okay. It's like this. Just now, Mr. Chia,
James, yeah.
Talking about a few software to monitor the data and the graphic that we want to show, the Grapha, something like that.
Grafana, correct.
The few brand. It is expensive, or what we going to budget on that?
Okay, Mr. Francis. So just now I share actually 4 software. One is the Node-RED programming, and then MQTT, InfluxDB, and Grafana. The good news is all this is an open platform.
You got your answer, Francis? So I think okay. So just to give a context here. So actually, frankly speaking,
sorry, Kenneth. Kenneth, I think Mr. Francis wanted to say something.
Okay, so sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay, it's like this. The software that you mentioned is very interesting. I know every equipment or anything monitoring system need something OS to run. So if we intend to go to 4.0, we are very worried about how much we're going to go in. On the hardware side, of course, we know the costing, the installation, and the software side that we are very down about it because we don't know the budget we're going to spend on the 4.0, the basic back end to this part.
Okay. Then maybe I think Dr. Chua or James, maybe you can share, because I think you all mentioned it's open source, right? So generally speaking, open source doesn't cost a lot lah. The only cost is learning part lah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Need Dr. Chua to say something?
Yeah, Dr. Chua.
Sure. So, Mr. Francis, as what I have shared by James, the software that we utilize, that we train in, are based on open platforms, or what we call as a community platforms, right? So basically, you will be able to access them. You can actually already explore and download them today if you intend to, right? And it runs with multiple operating systems. So let's say, for example, if you have a Windows system, it will be able to run on Windows. If you have a Linux system or Ubuntu, it should be able to operate as well, all the way to as small as a Raspbian, or what we call it, a Raspberry Pi OS as well. So these are actually platforms that are already capable to be to run, and some of the hardware that are available out there already comes with built in with the Node-RED integration. So as long as it is what we call as an industrial PC, you should be able to have that already able to pre-install or already able to install it later on. Yeah, so it is in a way it is OS independent. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Would there be any other questions from the floor? Okay, so maybe I'll just continue further. I think Dr. Chua, I think we just take maybe 2 or 3 questions, and after that I think we can wrap it up as well. But very good, very good morning though. So I think in your presentation there was one slide that you shared on modularity, and because it's the shop floor is actually modular in nature, then it can actually become scalable as well, or become sustainable in the long run as well at the same time, right? How is this done actually? Because sometimes if it's modular and those kind of things, then the concept with maybe being modular is having maybe, I wouldn't say legacy machines, but machines that may not speak to each other. So assuming the first PLC, the original machine that you have runs on, say for example, an Omron PLC, and you say for example you buy a new machine and those kind of things, right? Because it's modular, so and the new machine uses a Siemens PLC for an example. How do we get this to actually become sustainable and of course scalable eventually?
Yep. So basically, when we talk about modularity, is the capability of the platform or the software platform to be able to communicate with multiple brands or devices. So every hardware that are available out there will always have standard protocols. So standard protocols will be like, for example, like Modbus, whether is it TCP or RTU is a standard protocol. Serial communication is a standard. Or Ethernet IP is also a standard protocol, and also EtherCAT is also an example of a standard protocol. So the idea is how the software platform can actually communicate with these different kind of protocols, right? And because they are open protocols, we are able to utilize the Node-RED platform to do that kind of communication, right? Either through Modbus, which is a very common industrial protocol, or even through MQTT, as what James had shared earlier. So all these are open protocols that you can tap signals with. But of course, some machines have this issue where the original controllers, or original devices or hardware, they are locked, and therefore they are not accessible for modification. So some of the areas where the industry can scope out is one way is to discuss with the original supplier whether they are able to open up the ports either through Modbus communication to give the data, and then that data will just be pulled by the Node-RED platform. If that is difficult, which sometimes it is, or challenging, then a signal tapping method would help. in which that if you know where your tower light signals are, you know where your input and output sensors are, all you need to do is to tap that signal, which is basically a digital signal. Or if you have certain analog sensors, you can also tap that signal. So then that will give you like a sort of system in parallel running together with your original machine to help you collect that data while your machine is still operating as per usual. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Chua. I think I've got one more last question for myself. Anyway, I think I will post it to both of you. All right, to James and of course to Dr. Chua. If for James, maybe you can answer it as candidly as possible, Going to ask something a bit more sensitive, but I mean, if you can share, why not? Now, we all understand that eventually that smart factory, or if we implement smart factory in your shop floor, or even the factory itself, all right, we all understand that eventually it increases efficiency, it increases your profitability, and decreases downtime for your machines, right? Can you maybe share, if it's possible, or if you have done a case study as well, for either one of you as well, right? What are the percentage that, of course you can't share real numbers, but if you can give a gauge number of kind of a rule of thumb, what kind of increase of efficiency do you get? Or I mean, profitability goes without saying, right? But maybe you can share the increase of efficiency. Either one can start. Maybe James, you can start first.
Yeah, start first.
Yeah.
Basically, we, as I mentioned, presented just now, we started the project. We just completed one project.
Okay.
With the skill development, and then at the moment as we compare to our manual data, for example, the OE currently we capture in real time basis. Then we compare with the manual data that we do always. Okay, there's a gap there. So the gap is a potential improvement for us.
All right. Good.
Right.
Sorry, James. Just to remind myself as well. So you just started. Yeah. So you just implemented the project. Say end of last year or something along those lines.
Yeah, we just the system go live in October.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Even though until today we are still tuning because we want to match back the floor requirements. So at the beginning we developed a simple dashboard. Then now we want to make it like incorporate the hourly record. The detail downtime, the data into it. Right.
Okay. So that's why you have the actual versus target data as well on those kind of things.
Yeah.
Yes. Right. But before you embark on this journey, James, sorry.
Yep.
Do you have to get, because I think just now Dr. Chua mentioned that you would need to get buy-in from your management as well. So was it difficult to get buy-in from your management?
It's not difficult at all because now we are in this industry 4.0 revolution. So firstly, because most of the project that we do, we need to justify back like productivity improvement by how many percent, quality rejection reduction by how many percent. But for Industry 4.0, it's about technologies. You need to acquire the skill, the talent into the plant by doing a one or proof of concept. So basically, our target is to build the talent into the plant, to acquire the skill. So I think with the help of Dr. Chua team, we're able to acquire the skill. Now we can, as I mentioned, this year we plan to do 3 lines. So we are able to do by ourselves. So that is one of the success I will say.
Okay, good. Thank you, James. Right. Dr. Chua, do you want to add anything?
No, on my side, I think James covered extensively on his experience with regards to improving productivity and efficiency, and I think it's very good, and we are very happy to hear that as well.
Good, fantastic. So before we make a move, have you got any questions? Okay, I think Sam is asking a question. What is the minimum people needed to set up or program the software from end to end? James or Dr. Chua? Or Sam, maybe you want to explain a bit more what you mean actually?
Hi, I'm Sam. Yes, because from what my experience in programming and setting up software, usually take a long. I mean, if you programming stuff from the beginning, usually take a long time. So I'm wondering, like, if I need to set up from, for example, from the machine side all the way to ERP side, which is in the internal server. from all the process from end to end usually require how much like manpower, or is it possible to be done by a single person?
You are directing it to James or Dr. Chua? Or either one?
Either one.
Okay.
Maybe I share first. Okay, basically, for us, we are doing this just for one particular line. At the moment, we are not intended to link to our ERP system. Because for me personally, I feel we should go small first. Otherwise, we go to ERP system. ERP system involve the whole supply chain. That will be very complicated. So at the moment, we just go for small first. As I mentioned, I think just to share, basically, earlier in 2019, we attended our first NURET programming training. And then after the training, we spent a few months to catch up the things. And then we try to do our programming ourselves, how to get the operation rate, how to tap the signal, not tapping the signal, how to, within the software itself, we play around to familiarize it. And then in 2020, then only we started the POC. I think that is the so-called the storyline. You need to learn the programming first. Then later on, you need to apply the programming to your actual place. Okay, about how many people needed to set the program and software. I mean, for our case, the programming for NURET, about 2 to 3%, okay, including myself. And then about the hardware setup is totally by in-house engineering team. I think their team is about 3 to 4 people. Okay.
Cool. Right. Thank you, James. Dr. Chua, you want to add anything extra?
Yep. Probably I just add a little bit. So, Mr. Sam, generally the idea of our programs is to enable industries to actually do rapid prototyping. So, meaning to say that the software programming platforms that we use, as much as possible, we call it a low-code programming platform. So, meaning to say that it is a flow-based kind of tool where you drag and drop. Of course, there are some minimal programming needed in terms of certain function blocks. But those are what we will cover in the training programs. So generally, our programs that we run are enabled to help you to familiarize with the tool, gain the competencies, and actually at the end of the day, what you have is actually a template for you to work with already. Because from the training, at the end, you have assessment. So you, from there, you have a template. When you go back, you can actually work on that integration. So generally, the learning curve, I would say, we help to reduce the steepness of the learning curve right through our programs. So to help you to smoothly transition to integrate this. So our goal is actually to help you to get started faster and to scale up faster so that it improves your overall ROI. But of course, again, it will. We hope that you will actually have assignment of a team, right, to actually start the project, and then from there, after the training, then you can slowly scale up from there. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Chua.
Thank you.
James.
Just a small question, because currently I'm actually using a small prototype in data collecting and a bit of automation at the same time. The thing I'm facing is that sometimes the parts is not that consistent. Is there any consultant to or some sort of guidance to see like whether the way we are doing it is appropriate or not?
So Mr. Koh, what I can probably, we can probably discuss this outside of this session.
Yeah, sure.
You can share with us what you are currently working on or what you have been doing. We are able to sort of have a review and provide an initial scoping and to just see how we can support you further. Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
we can definitely discuss outside of the session. So we can get in touch with Kenneth, and I think Kenneth will link us together, and then we can start that conversation. Yeah.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
All right. Let me put down my email down there in the chat group. So, Sam, if you don't mind, then later you just email us at that email, smartfactory@msfww.com. I think Veronica has one question and Francis has another. So after Francis, then we just close it off and then we just take a picture session to do something. So, right? So I think Veronica wants to know, how many people is actually in your Kaizen team, James, and of course whether everybody went through the data generation course. But let me change that question a bit slightly. In APM, all right. Okay. I know you did this in APM, but did you all appoint a team, so to speak, all right, within APM Springs to see who should be in this team to actually move forward towards having a 4.0 in your factory?
Okay. So to answer that, in fact, in APM group we have 20 over companies. Okay.
Yeah.
So the AMS, so-called the APM manufacturing systems, every company they have their own team to do the Kaizen. So this Kaizen we are talking about the lean manufacturing,
Correct.
like just in time, Jitoka, PM, all these things. So for me, I highly recommended those who involve in lean to involve in 4.0. Okay, because for me, we want to start to capture the data, what the data we want with your lean know-how is added advantages because you know where you want to do, right? How many people in MS team? Every companies, I will say about 4 to 5%. But basically, their structure already built into their management team, meaning they have a champion. It's basically the operation head. Okay. So their leaders, the Kaizen leader will be their production head, something like that. Okay. The second question, I think Veronica asked is all of them went through the data ingestion. Yeah. Okay. So for me, I am under suspension division. Okay. Basically 3 plant, spring, coil spring, and so forth. So 3 plant MS team, they went through data generation course. Okay.
Okay, cool. Thank you, James. I think the last question for today, before we close off, I think it's also for James as well. Francis would like to find out how long do you take to actually implement your information automation program? Yeah. Correct, right, Francis? Something like that.
You mean how long I completed?
I mean, for the first time you practice implement the IR, the Industry 4.0, how long you took to make it satisfaction? Basically.
Meaning, I assume is you're talking about the first project that we did. Yeah. Okay. How long it takes? You see, from the first training 2019, end of 2019, we start to learn the neural programming. So subsequently, we need to play around with the program to learn, and then I would say maybe 2 to 3 months. Then right after we think we should apply, instead of we just play around the program only, we need to apply to the shop floor, okay, to get a benefit. Then we join we go for second stage with Dr. Chua team. I think around 3 months. They need to acquire the skill. I say about maybe 5 months like that to acquire the skill. But different people different. I would say maybe because I'm not from IT background, maybe some of them from IT they can catch up very fast in terms of programming. But anyhow, I always recommend my Kaizen members. All these things can be learned if we really go for it. No worry. Actually, it's a skill. No matter we like or not, the trend is coming in. So we have to have some technical skill towards that direction. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Francis, I hope it's satisfactory. Okay, great, fantastic. So I think okay. So just before we all leave, can we take a nice photo of everybody? If you don't mind, switch on your videos and those. The videos, please. If we have everybody here. Or if everybody is still online. Or everybody is as my, I think I got younger boys on to say, if you play game halfway then you go AFK, so I think maybe it's the device is there but the person not there. So anyway, so just take a photo, quick photo. So please put on your beautiful and handsome face. Thank you very much. Thank you. Cheers. All right, fantastic. Now, before we finish off, so a bit of advertisement from our side. Let me share this thing now. Give me a minute. Do you see the slide? This Q&A, right? Okay, so just to advise everybody, do you see this slide as well? The smart factory training and the data generation.
Yeah, can see.
Okay, cool. So now, so we as mentioned earlier, so Master Worldwide and SHRDC, we are sales partner. We are partners together to sell these courses. So we are their sales partner, and SHRDC is a training partner. So now, both these courses takes place every month. All right. Of course, held virtually as well. Now, your first question may be, would it be better to go for data generation first, or should I go for the smart factory technical overview first? So it depends very much on the individual company. All right. So one of our clients actually recently, he just signed up for data generation because he knew that he wanted data generation in his factory. I think very much similar to what James did as well. So they just jump on the bandwagon of data generation. All right. So, but having said that, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's right or wrong. So basically, in short, if you want to know a bit more about smart factory, then of course, if you want, especially if you're an engineer and you want your bosses to actually buy into this, then of course there's a smart factory technical overview course. Of course, there's a course involved as well. All right. Then of course there's a data generation on the site as well that takes place monthly as well. Now, what's interesting about the data generation is actually they use online remote learning. So what is interesting is as well. So in all fairness, Dr. Chua, please correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah. Now, what you could do is actually while you actually learn online as well on what data generation is, there's also, of course, I wouldn't say a one-on-one situation Q&A session as well, but you have a very small group to actually discuss your problems with or what you want to actually achieve. But on top of that, all right, so you can actually access remotely to the Smart Factory Lab, which is based in Shah Alam. Right, so depending on where you are, of course, there's some protocols that you should actually meet. So you have meet those protocols, and you can actually access those remote labs. So in other words, you can actually see how actually it makes sense. So in other words, it's something like a smart factory training program to some extent, Dr. Chua. All right. So let me end.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. So if you're any of you interested, please send us an email to smartfactory@www.com. We'll be able to advise you further and see how we actually take to move forward as well at the same time. But I think that the data generation course is taking place this week. So if you want to sign up, then it's the following month, together with the Smart Factory as well. All right. Thank you very much. Once again, we shall send you a so-called a feedback email later. All right. So if you can just sign up, just tell us how we did, whether you like us or not, and those kind of things, or if you want to hear different kind of topics as well. Just to inform everybody here, since you are here, another 2-3 minutes of your time. We are exploring with Dr. Chua and see how we actually work with informational technologies in the next topic. So please stay tuned. Yeah, if you got any other topics you want to listen to, right, please do let us know. Or if you want a one-on-one, not say one-on-one, a simple one-on-one session with Dr. Chua, do let us know as well. All right. Thank you very much for your time this morning. Please do have a nice lunch.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
So my team, Veronica and Penny, is around, so you can actually speak to them as well.